Hey crew, we have the Unkillable Arc Warlock, and man did this build surprise me. In a good way, don't worry. I have made quite a few unkillable builds, but this one might be my favorite because it makes use of the new aspect melee ability called Lightning Surge, and it's probably the best thing about Arc 3.0 on the Warlock anyways, so I wanted to turn it into a useful tool, and we did just that with this build. The exotic we use also fits just right in, as it's one of the stronger healing exotics in the game, and now since we have a strong melee ability to pair with it, we can finally take advantage of this exotic and turn it into an amazing choice. This is master level content solo in the dungeon, and in a minute here you will see it against champions as well in master content, since I know there'll be those people that say, but it's not good against champions, Plunder. Oh yes it is! This build turns you into a vampire with unlimited lightning surges, and it's easily one of my favorite builds now because I really do like this new melee aspect. Again, it's probably the best thing to come to Arc 3.0 on the Warlock. But before we jump into it, we have a sponsor on today's video. This video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I am level 97 on my account here, and I want to show you guys my favorite top 3 champions and the build possibilities that each bring. First off, we have Mithrala Lifebane. She looks amazing, and what's more is she brings an AoE cleanse that removes all debuffs, then she places a strengthen and shield buff on all her allies in a single move. Now that's pretty dang strong. Next we have Lydia the Death Siren. Now she may fall short in the looks to Mithrala, but she has arguably the strongest move in all of Raid, and that's the Siren's Wall. Place an AoE decreased defense and a weakened debuff on the entire enemy team, while at the same time placing a speed and strengthen buff on your team. And last to round out the top 3 is Necrit the Great. Not only does he look awesome, this guy is an arena beast. When you build him properly in a bolster set where he places a protected shield on your entire team, you get this unkillable team going, and it's a force to be reckoned with. Raid also just released a super powered legendary version of everyone's favorite champion, the Death Knight. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th, and you'll add Ultimate Death Knight to your collection. You can also use the code DKRises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new champion all the way to level 50 and 5-star ascension. If you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code that you see on screen here, and you'll get a unique bonus worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion in Rector Draith, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get into the game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, and I hope to see you guys all over in Raid. For the subclass, make sure you're using Chain Lightning because it has a 1:30 cooldown timer, so it's just a little bit quicker, just in case you need that extra melee when you aren't charged with light. For the aspects, you want to be running Electrostatic Mine, so defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Ionic Trace. Collecting Ionic Trace makes you amplified. For our second aspect, it's Lightning Surge. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to blink forward, calling down lightning strikes that jolt targets as you rematerialize. Finally, this is a Warlock ability that actually does some damage and can one-shot red bars, which is just great to pair with our exotic. It also jolts enemies, so when you hit a champion and red bars all at once, you're still going to kill the red bars, you're still going to activate your exotic, which we're using, the healing, but we're also going to leave the jolt on the champions, which helps out in overall damage and ad clear. Make sure you're using Pulse Grenade as well. That's personally the grenade that I like to use. Storm Grenade is also decent on the Warlock. For your fragments, we're using Spark of Resistance. Because we're going to be jolting in there anyways, we might as well take an extra 25% damage reduction on top of everything, plus it gives us a 10+ in strength. We also have Spark of Shock, your arc grenades jolt targets, so now our melee jolts and our grenades jolt, so we're creating a bunch of different ways to jolt everything. We're throwing on Spark of Magnitude, your lingering arc grenades, which is going to be our Pulse Grenade, is going to have extended duration, which is allowing us to just glaive down champions. And then we also have Spark of Discharge. This last one can be traded out with a bunch of different things. For your stats on the build, you want to aim for 100 resilience for that 40% damage reductions and all the different content that you're doing. And then in the gameplay, I had 80 discipline and 70 strength. You really don't need those, but I would bump up those two as high as possible. Now for the weapons, you can use any glaive. Glaives actually is going to proc our exotic, which we're going to go over in a second. So any glaive works with this. Even something like Lubre's Ruin, maybe with Swashbuckler, right? You could take advantage of that, or Nezarek's Whisper, that's an arc glaive, right? You can get like Demolitionist, Adrenaline Junkie, a bunch of different roles. But a glaive now procs our exotic that we're using, so remember that. So we can heal off getting glaive kills as well. Our exotic is Karnstein Armlet. The perk here is Vampire's Caress. Melee kills instantly restore a large amount of health and continue to restore health afterwards for a short duration. This is actually a very powerful healing exotic, so instantly when you get a kill, it will give you 50 HP. No matter what you're at, no matter where your health is at, 50 HP. But on top of that 50 HP, what it does after that is give you continuous healing for 8 seconds. That healing is 30 HP per second, which is actually very strong. That's basically on par with Restoration. I believe Restoration is 40. So it's very, very close to Restoration, basically the same thing. So you're getting 8 seconds of non-stop Restoration and 50 health on kill. But on top of that, it lasts for 8 seconds and can be re-procced no matter what time you're at. So every kill with a glaive will proc the healing, and every kill with your jolting melee ability will proc the healing as well. And as you can see, we can loop this melee ability over and over and then add in the glaive where we need to. But speaking of which, let's go over those mods so we can get this melee back over and over and become this unkillable vampire that blinks around and just jolts everything. So the first mod we're going to be using is Melee Wellmaker. We actually have 2 copies of this on. So every time we jolt into enemies and get that kill, we're going to spawn a well. And since we have 2 copies on, our third mod is Bountiful Wells. So now we spawn 3 wells every time that we jolt in and kill things. So 3 arc wells are going to pop out. We're also going to use Elemental Charge, so we become charged with light every time we collect one of those Elemental Wells. And then we're going to spend that charge with light on Heavy Handed. While charged with light, regain half of your melee energy when you use a charged melee ability. Now the last mod we're going to add is Melee Kickstart. Since Heavy Handed takes a little bit to activate with this jolting melee for whatever reason, Melee Kickstart actually works with this build. And when you combine all these mods, you have that infinite loop of the jolting melee ability, which is really, really cool. Now I know I'll get this question asked a ton, and a lot of people have asked me in Discord already, what about Winter's Guile with this build? Now I tested Winter's Guile and I also tested Necrotic Grips, and Winter's Guile is just too fast to activate. You have to get that next melee kill in 4 to 5 seconds for it to work, and it does do some great damage, but the times it actually lined up weren't really worth it for me. And on top of that, Melee Wellmaker has an internal cooldown of 1 to 2 seconds, so if you're spamming your jolting melee so fast, which you definitely can do with this build because we have an infinite amount of them, if you go too fast into your second jolting melee, you actually won't spawn Melee Wellmaker, so you won't spawn those arc wells, which means we won't get our melee back. So I found Winter's Guile to be just a little too situational, and honestly I don't need that damage from my exotic like that. I need survivability when it comes to the Arc Warlock. And then Necrotic Grips was kind of the same thing. My jolting melee killed everything, so I couldn't really spread my poison to any enemies or anything because they were already killed by the jolt itself. The only times I would take advantage of it is on a high health target where it would apply the Necrotic Grips, the poison to that target, but I'll take the survivability over just poisoning one target any day for me. Plus, my melee ability is already applying jolt to the target, so I don't really need any extra damage coming from my exotic. Again, on the Arc Warlock, I'm taking survivability because I need to be able to survive in this harder content if I want to use Arc. Thank you so much to all of you that have become members over the past couple of weeks. I really appreciate it, and it means the world to me. So thank you. I cannot express my gratitude enough. Thank you so much for watching my content. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching.